This is You're Probably Right. Entertainment first, everything else is just bonus. Opinions, all ours. Sometimes backed by research, but never the final word. There are always exceptions, so take it with a grain of salt and a slight dusting of chili powder.
Stay where you are respected. Stay where you're respected. Run from disrespect. And when you are truly loved, consider it a blessing. Not a guarantee, not an entitlement, not a thing to strut around with like you won a raffle at the X. A blessing. Because love is rare. Real love is rare. And respect, even though it should not be rare, apparently has become scarce too. Scarce in dating, scarce in marriage, scarce in friendship, scarce in family, scarce at work, scarce in the kind of world where people say, I care about you, while making choices that tell you very clearly they do not want the inconvenience of caring about you properly. So let me say it again before I get too far into this. Stay where you are respected. Run from disrespect. And when you are truly loved, consider it a blessing. Because there are a lot of people right now confusing attention with love, chemistry with love, access with love, money with love, sex with love, emotional chaos with love, checking in with love, mixed signals with depth. And that confusion is costing people years of their life. Years of peace, years of clarity, years of self-respect, years of trying to interpret somebody who was never trying to understand you with the same seriousness you were trying to understand them. That is where I want to begin. Because if there is one thing I've seen over and over again is this. A person can feel deeply for you and still disrespect you. A person can desire you and still disrespect you. A person can be attracted to you and still disrespect you. A person can sleep with you and still disrespect you. A person can tell you private things and still disrespect you. A person can say they care and still disrespect you. And some of us, because we are emotional people, because we are loyal people, because we are people who think in stories, because we are people who remember moments in tone and little glances in private scenes, some of us take all of those signs and try to turn them into love. It's not. We say, well, it has to mean something. It feels like something. It looks like something. We were close. We were intimate. We had moments. We had chemistry. We had a bond. Yes. Maybe you did. But if respect is missing, what you have is not safe. And I think that is the sentence a lot of people need to really hear. If respect is missing, what you have is not safe. It may be exciting. It may be intoxicating. It may be the kind of thing that lights your whole nervous system up like a Christmas tree at Scarborough Town Center in the middle of December. It may make you feel seen. It may make you feel chosen. It may even make you feel alive in ways you have never or even haven't felt in years. But if respect is missing, it's not safe. Because respect is the thing that keeps love from turning into theater. Respect is the thing that keeps attraction from turning into use. Respect is the thing that keeps desire from becoming convenience. Respect is the thing that makes a person say, even if I cannot give you what you want, I will not handle your heart carelessly. And once that is gone, you're not standing in love anymore. You're standing in appetite. And whose dinner? You are standing in self-interest. You are standing in emotional opportunism. You are standing in a situation where one person is trying to make sense of the bond while the other person is trying to keep the bond useful, manageable, and deniable. This is not love. This is not even honest confusion. That is a person wanting the benefits of closeness without the burden of carrying another human being properly. And people stay. Wait. And people stay in that because of moments. People stay in that because of chemistry. People stay in that because of hope. People stay in that because of once in a while, the disrespectful person will reach back and soften up and say something sweet, ask you, how are you? Stand a little closer, look at you in a certain way. And for a moment, the whole thing feels alive again. And now you're in trouble again. Because now you are not living off of stability. You are living off of snippets, pieces, crumbs, a morsel. One look, one text, one soft tone, one good night, one good morning, one memory, one time they acted like they could not get enough of you. And your mind says, see, there is something here. There has to be. Meanwhile, your dignity is sitting in the corner like, my brother, my sister, are we going to acknowledge what is happening here, or are we just going to keep collecting emotional coupons and pretending we are rich? Because that is what a lot of people are doing. They have a jar full of emotional coupons. Coupons for one smile. Coupons for one intimate night. Coupons for one vulnerable conversation. Coupons for one time somebody said, no, you matter to me. And they are trying to buy a future with scraps from the past. That is how people end up staying where they're disrespected. Not because they're fools. Not because they are necessarily weak. Not because they are desperate in some pathetic, cartoonish Disney way. Because people stay because something in the situation did feel real. And now they are trying to figure out how something real can sit beside something so wrong. How can somebody who held me look at me like I'm nothing? How can somebody who came close now act like I'm a bother, I'm a problem? How can somebody who shared private things with me now give me public distance and pretend I'm not there? How can somebody who wanted access to my body, my listening, my care, my support, my thoughtfulness, my steadiness, now behave like I am too much the moment I needed or need anything clear back? How? And because the mind does not like contradiction, because the heart does not like disrespect dressed up as complexity, because the ego does not like being left holding all the meaning in the room, the person starts replaying everything. What changed? When did it change? Was I making more of it than it was? Was I just convenient? A rebound? Did they ever care? Was it just sex? Was it just attention? Was it just a bridge? Was I the emotional Uber Eats? Did they just order support, intimacy, validation, and one pair of shoes to go? And yes, there is humor in that. But it's the kind of humor that hurts because it's true. Because some people don't want you. They want what flows through you, what comes from you, what's in your heart, what's in your pocket, what's in your mind. Your steadiness, your listening, your emotional labor, your gifts, your sexual energy, your attention, your culture, your ability to make them feel important and looked at and cared for. And as long as you are giving all of that, they will never feel the urgency of respect. Why would they? If they can get closeness without clarity, why would they clarify? If they can get sex without structure, why would they structure? If they can get support without sacrifice, why would they sacrifice? If they can get your heart without having to protect it, why would they suddenly become a better person because you sent a long paragraph at 11:47 p.m. on a Tuesday? No. Respect is not built by the feelings you have for them. Respect is built by the standard you carry for yourself. This is the ugly part and the freeing part. Because a lot of people are waiting to be respected by someone who has already benefited from their self-abandonment. It's real. Let me say that again. A lot of people are waiting to be respected by someone who has already benefited from their abandonment. Huh? Check it. You gave too much. You explained too much. You forgave too quickly. You tolerated too much fog. You caught them in something. They apologized in a way that they knew would get them back in quickly. You let them come close on the days they wanted warmth and disappear on the days they wanted freedom. You let them unload on you when life was hard, then watch them vanish when it was your turn to be held. And now you're shocked that respect is not there. But respect does not grow in places where you keep providing, where you keep proving that you will stay without it. That is not bitterness. That is structure. Now let me separate love and respect, because people mix them up all the time. Love is the feeling that says, I care about you. I care about your well-being. I want to know more about you. What makes you tick and talk? What makes you laugh? What makes you cry? What has affected you in your life up until this point? How can I affect your life in the future with care? Respect is the posture that says, I will treat your humanity like it has weight, like it has importance. Love says, I feel something for you. Respect says, I will behave in a way that recognizes your dignity. Love can be emotional, but respect is a behavior. Yes, it's behavioral. Love can be spontaneous. Respect is disciplined. Love can be warm. Respect is steady. You can count on it. It nurtures your peace. Love can be said in a moment. Respect is proven. That's right, over time. And that is why people get trapped by the word love. Because love feels bigger. Love sounds better, sounds bigger. Love is the word in the songs. Love is the word in the captions. Love is the word people cry over. But respect is what tells the truth. Respect shows up on time. Respect answers properly. Respect tells the truth even when the truth is uncomfortable. Respect does not leave somebody confused on purpose. Respect does not eat from your hand and then act like you are doing too much because now you are standing there expecting reciprocity. Respect gives an answer. Respect does not ghost. Respect says, I will not play with access. Respect says, I will do my best to communicate how I feel and what importance you hold in my life. Respect says, I will not use mixed signals as a management strategy. Respect says, I will not keep you around as emotional spare change or spare tire just in case. Rebound. Bridge to another love. And when respect is missing, love becomes so dangerous. Because now all the feeling in the world just became more rope to hang yourself with. Now every soft moment becomes a reason to stay. Every kind text becomes a reason to hope. Every little check, every little check-in becomes a reason to ignore the larger pattern. And that is how disrespect survives. Not by being obvious all the time, by giving you just enough feeling that you keep accusing the lack of honor, or excusing, I should say, sorry. By giving you just enough feeling that you keep excusing the lack of honor. That is why some of the most painful situations are not the ones where somebody was cold from the beginning. No. The painful ones are where the person gave you enough warmth to hook you into some meaning, but not enough respect to hold your life properly. And that is the killer. You see, let me step in here. Enough warmth to awaken hope. Not enough respect to make hope safe. Enough intimacy to feel chosen. Not enough character to make being chosen actually matter. Enough chemistry to make that body remember. Make that body rock. Not enough honesty to make the future livable. Promises, promises. Words, words. Blah, 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 etc. Sure you will. And then what happens? The disrespect, of course. The disrespected person becomes an investigator, a theologian, a detective, a novelist, a forensic scientist in sweatpants at 2:18 in the morning. Let me check the tone again. Let me look at the wording again. Let me see the timeline again. Let me compare this look from March with the look from May. Let me ask why she said this but did that. Why he said this and did that. Let me ask why they became close one day and then they vanished the next. Let me figure out if I was a blessing, a convenience, or just a side conquest. And that is where people lose themselves, because disrespect does not only hurt the heart, it recruits and grabs the mind, spiraling, remunerating. ruminating. It keeps the mind busy. It keeps the mind turning. It keeps the mind trying to solve. A person whose greatest talent is creating just enough ambiguity that they never have to stand fully in their own selfishness. That is why I say run, 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 run from disrespect. Run. Not because every disrespectful person is a monster with red eyes and a pitchfork and a soundtrack from the low-budget horror film. No. Some disrespectful people are attractive, funny. They have a soft voice. They're good looking. Broken in interesting ways. Sexy. Deep sometimes. Hilarious sometimes. Cute sometimes. They know how to look at you. They know how to talk to you. They know how to talk to everybody. They know how to touch the line. That is exactly why you have to run. Run. Because if disrespect only came wearing a clown nose and tap dancing shoes, everybody would leave. But disrespect often comes in a form you prayed for. That's the twist. It can come in the person you think is the answer. The person you think is the dream. The person who makes your whole system light up and say, there, that one. And that is when discernment has to be stronger than your desire. Because desire will lie to you. Desire will say, but look how alive I feel. Desire will say, but nobody has ever made me feel this way. Desire will say, but maybe they're just scared too. Desire will say, but if I love them better, if I stayed longer, if I explained myself more clearly, if I show them my loyalty, if I do not pressure them, if I become more understanding and flexible, maybe they will finally turn around and honor what is here. Maybe. And maybe you will win the Lotto Max. But some people are not waiting to become honorable. They are waiting to see how much dishonor you will tolerate before you finally call the whole thing what it is. It's not cynicism. That's the observation. I have seen people stay in situations because they say, but they love me. And I want to ask a very basic question. Love you how? Love you enough to tell you the truth when it mattered, on time? Love you enough to make room? Love enough to move from that room to your room? Love you enough to stop playing with your dignity? Love you enough to choose you publicly, privately, and consistently? or love you the way a person loves a couch. Comfortable, useful, familiar, nice to fall into when they're tired and dysregulated. That is not the same thing. A lot of people are not being loved. They are being used affectionately. And because the use of affection or affectionate, and because the use is affectionate, because the tone is soft, because the memories are warm, because the chemistry is real, they know the right move. They call it love. They know the depth. They know how to stretch things. They know how to move. No. If somebody can use you and then resent your humanity the moment it inconveniences them, that is not love. If somebody can come into your world, pull from your warmth, your listening, your body, your support, your gifts, your steadiness, your loyalty, and then roll their eyes at the emotional consequence of what they stirred up, that is not love. That is appetite with access. That is selfishness with a smile, no less. That is convenience wearing a nice scent. And look, I'm not saying everybody who is confused is evil. I am not saying every wounded person is a manipulator. I am not saying every avoidant person is sitting there like a James Bond villain stroking a cat and planning an emotional collapse for you. I am saying pattern matters. And if the pattern is they come close when it serves them, they disappear when clarity is required, they take warmth but do not return structure, they like being desired but do not want to carry your heart, they like your support but not your needs, they like your body but not your burden, they like your interest but not your expectations, then the name of the pattern is disrespect. No matter how attractive they are, no matter how beautiful their eyes be, no matter how hard their childhood was, no matter how many tears they have cried about what somebody else did to them. And this is one of the ugliest truths in life. Some people can describe pain beautifully. They can narrate what was done to them. They can tell you about being lied to, used, abandoned, misunderstood, mistreated. And then they can turn around and do the same sort of thing to you with a straight face. Should I feel sorry for you? They'd say. Should I care? It's not my fault. That is how you know insight is not character. Being able to explain pain is not the same as refusing to cause it. And some people have a very developed feelings, are very developed feelings, and are very underdeveloped morally. They can feel everything when it happens to them and nothing close to that when they are the ones doing it. So they cry when they are left, but shrug when they leave others in confusion. They act when somebody is giving mixed signals to them, but act like it is no big deal when they become the one giving the mixed signals. They rage when they feel used, but call you dramatic when you notice that your support, your gifts, your body, your listening, your peace have all been treated like items from a shop they were free to browse. That is why respect matters, because love without respect becomes self-serving. Love without respect says, I feel something, so that should be enough. Is it? Respect says no. How I feel does not excuse how I behave. Love without respect says, I did not mean to hurt you. Respect says, then I will change the pattern of my behavior. Simple. Love without respect says, I still care about you. Respect says, then I will stop doing things that keep you confused. Love without respect says, you know how I am. Respect says, then I need to get better before I keep pulling you through this. Do you see the difference? I pray you do. One is or feelings. The other is a standard being set, waiting to be set, being repeated. And if I had to choose one to build a life on, give me respect first. I know that sounds unromantic, but this could not be further from the truth. I know it's unromantic to some. People want violins playing. People want sparks. People want the rain scene, the airport scene, the dramatic confession. Brother, sister, please. Half of you do not need an airport scene. You need somebody to answer the phone and tell the truth. You need somebody who does not act like basic decency is a special event. You do not need a cinematic monologue in the rain. You need consistency on a regular Tuesday in February, not the 14th. That is respect. Respect is boring to the immature, that is. It is beautiful to the wise. Respect is not always flashy. It is not always dramatic. It is not always the thing you brag about. But it is the thing that lets your nervous system rest. And if your nervous system never rests around someone, if you are always reading between the lines, interpreting, hoping, bracing, replaying, trying to work out whether today is a good version of them or a selfish version of them or a disappeared version of them or a hey stranger version of them or uh you are doing too much, you're doing too much version of them, then no, I do not care how strong the chemistry is. That is not home. That is weather. And some of you are trying to build houses inside of storms. Then you are shocked when the furniture gets wet. No. No. Stay where you are respected. Not where you are tolerated, not where you are useful, not where you are secretly appreciated but publicly minimized. It's nothing. It's no big deal. We were just talking. Not where they say nice things about you to themselves but make no real room for you in their actual lives. Where do they live again? Not where they love your care but do not respect your personhood. Stay where you are respected, and let me say something else that hurts. Some people do not respect you because you are too available to people who have not earned you. Hold up. Some people do not respect you because you are too available to people who have not earned you. There, I said it. You get it? Not all disrespect starts with them. Some of it starts with the way you distribute access to yourself. You hand out husband benefits or girlfriend benefits or wife benefits of energy. You hand out wife patience, husband patience on situationship nonsense. You hand out full emotional loyalty to people who are acting like they are in demo version of commitment. Let's just see. Let's just see what you'll do. If. How did you look at that person? How did you look at them? What? Then later you are in shock because they are comfortable. Of course they're comfortable. You made comfort cheap. You did not make yourself precious. You made yourself absorbent and you took it all in. You absorbed inconsistency. You absorbed mixed signals. You absorbed their uncertainty. You absorbed their chaos. You absorbed their excuses. You absorbed their late night softness, their daytime distance. And now you're wrung out. You got nothing left. That is not only their sin, it's your lesson. Because one of the ways disrespect grows is when a person realizes they can keep getting from you without ever having to meet your level of what is right. And then you start bargaining with your own dignity. Haven't you been embarrassed enough? Aren't you tired of looking like that? If people knew what you've really done and what you've really taken, what would they say? Does it matter? Well, maybe if I'm more understanding, maybe if I do not ask too much, maybe if I just let them be where they are and come where I am when they feel like it. Maybe if I prove I am not like the others. Listen, you are not an apprenticeship program for broken, selfish people. You are not a private rehab center for somebody's inability to honor human beings. You are not a volunteer position at the departments of maybe one day they'll get it. No, you are a person. You were created in God's image. And people either learn how to handle you with respect or they lose access. That is how it should be. That is not arrogance. That is boundary. Now, there is another thing people confuse with love. Sadly, attention, attention, attention. Attention is not love. Some people are addicted to being wanted. They are not in love with you. They are in love with the sensation of mattering, the very thought of your attention and your eyes on them. So they keep a little thread alive, a little text, a little check-in here or there, a little look, a little warmth, a little concern. Not enough to build on, of course. Not enough to keep their place in your mind. Or maybe enough to keep their place in your mind. Do you know how many people are suffering because they confuse being checked in on with being cherished? A text is not a commitment. Hope you're okay is not respect. A little late night concern is not a relationship strategy. Some people touch the line because they do not want to feel cruel. They're worried if you explode and expose. Not because they're ready to love you. That is why confusion is not relationship strategy. Let me say that one clearly. Listen, confusion is not a relationship strategy. If the only way a relationship keeps breathing is through half-truths, mixed signals, timing games, vague concerns, emotional crumbs, and deniable closeness, then that is not the building blocks, certainly not a relationship. That is emotional weather management. That is one person trying to preserve options and the other person trying to preserve meaning. And that is a painful, very painful mismatch, because the person preserving meaning is thinking, this must be leading somewhere. The person preserving option is thinking, I just don't want this to get ugly. I don't want to be embarrassed. I need to save my public image, especially if it's been tarnished before. Those are not the same conversation. So what do? You run from disrespect. And I do not only mean physically. Yes, sometimes physically, sometimes leave, sometimes transfer, sometimes block, sometimes stop going. But I also mean mentally. Run in your interpretation. Run in your standards. Run in the story you are telling yourself. Stop calling disrespect complicated. Stop calling selfishness wounded. Stop calling avoidance depth. Stop calling crumbs care. Stop calling your own anxiety love. Because sometimes you do not need more data. You need a better sentence. Not maybe they are, not maybe they care in their own way. Nah. Maybe their own way is beneath what I should accept. That's a sentence. Maybe their own way is beneath what I should accept. And once you say that honestly, the whole spell changes. It's a spell, yeah. Because then you stop asking whether they mean well. You know. You start asking whether their way of moving through relationship is safe, honorable, and respectful enough to even stay anywhere near them. Remove yourself. They might come and follow you. They might chase. They might have realized, or maybe you'll help them realize what they've lost. But if you stay there, they're going to realize nothing. That is a better question, I guess. Now, let me talk about blessing, because I don't want this whole thing to sound like a funeral for romance. I'm not saying become cold. I'm not saying never trust anybody. I'm not saying turn yourself into a suspicious little gargoyle who lives on a balcony and critiques human behavior with a notebook and a bad attitude. Nah. I am saying when you are truly loved, consider it a blessing, because real love is not normal in the world we are currently walking through. A lot of people want stimulation. A lot of people want to get off. A lot of people want validation. A lot of people want to be touched. A lot of people want somebody to make them feel wanted, sexy, understood, admired, less alone. That is not the same as love. Love is when someone cares for you, and that care for you becomes structure. Love is when someone tells the truth because your peace matters. Love is when someone chooses words carefully because they know you are not an object. Love is when someone does not leave you in confusion because they know confusion corrodes the soul. Love is when somebody says, I know you are not perfect. You can lose a couple pounds, but I will not make your imperfection an excuse to mistreat you because you don't look like, act like someone else, or what I thought you would, or what I expected you to, because you are from this or from that cloth or culture. Love is when somebody sees your wounds and does not turn them into a map of control. Love is when somebody can be attracted to you without reducing you to your usefulness. You're good for that. You're good for this. Love is when somebody can be close to you without making you beg for plainness. And if you ever find that, yes, call it a blessing, because it is. A person who loves and respects you is a blessing. Oh, you think you deserve it, do you? A person who can hold desire and discipline in the same hand is a blessing. A person who can feel deeply and still behave uprightly is a blessing. A person who can choose you over another is a blessing. A person who can tell you hard truths without humiliating you is a blessing. A person who can say no without turning you into garbage is a blessing. A person who can say yes without playing games is a blessing. A person who does not need to keep you confused in order to keep you around is a blessing. A person who can tell you the truth and allow you to make your own decision is a blessing. Do not. No, let me change that. Do you understand how rare that is? Some people get a little warmth and call it love. Some people get one night and call it destiny. Some people get chemistry, boom, and call it home. No. Home is where your spirit is not always bracing for impact. Home is where your humanity is not always on trial. Home is where you're not constantly being quizzed and questioned and tested. Home is where your dignity goes or does not have to beg the room for oxygen. And if you ever find that in a person, yes, thank God. That is a blessing. But do not confuse blessing with basic requirements. Love is a blessing. Respect is the requirement. That is the line. I do not need fireworks on day one. I do not need a speech in the moonlight. I do not need somebody to post me on a billboard downtown. But respect is non-negotiable. You do not get to desire me and disrespect me. You do not get to lean on me and disrespect me. You do not get to receive from me and disrespect me. You do not get to borrow my peace, my ear, my body, my hope, my steadiness, my niceness, my support, and then act irritated that I exist as a full human being with a heart attached and I need something sometimes too. No. Run from disrespect. Run early. Run tired if you have to. Run limping if you have to. Run crying if you have to. But run. Because disrespect ages people. Disrespect gives you wrinkles. Disrespect makes people question what they know they felt. Disrespect turns beautiful people into detectives of their own demise. Disrespect makes you rehearse conversations that should never have been necessary in the first place. Disrespect makes you carry endings that should have been spoken very, very plainly. And some of you are carrying endless endings right now that the other person was too selfish, too weak, too avoidant, or too self-centered to actually just state very, very clearly. So you have to become your own closure. And that hurts, I know. But do it anyway. Because the person who confused you is not always the person qualified to free you. Sometimes the person who confused you most is the last person you should have asked to explain your worth in the first place. Let me say that slowly. Sometimes the person who confused you the most is the last person you should ask to explain what your worth is. If their whole pattern benefited from your uncertainty, why would you expect a clean moral answer at the end? No. Read the pattern, read the posture, read the behavior, and certainly read the cost. If you are consistently the one left carrying all of the emotional meaning and all of the pain and wondering and with a whole bunch of bag of questions that you can't for some reason you can't point to or you can't put your finger on, the answer is already in the room. And once you know that, you can decide. Stay where you're respected. Run from disrespect. And when you are truly loved, consider it a blessing, because it is. Not because love is weak, because love is holy when it is real. Love does not have to be loud to be life-changing. Love does not have to be dramatic to be unforgettable. Real love often feels calmer than the counterfeit. It's easy, like Sunday morning. That is another hard truth. The counterfeit is often more exciting at first, more charged, more beautiful, more handsome, more cinematic, more addictive, more presentable to your family and your friends. But the real thing is more breathable, more sustainable, more stable, more honest, more upright, more human. The counterfeit makes you feel high and then confused. The real thing lets you feel warm, then safe. The counterfeit makes you study the signs. The real thing makes you rest. The counterfeit keeps you trying to get back to one magical scene. The real thing builds a life. It gets better and better. So yes, count it as a blessing when you are loved. But do not sit around starving because somebody once let you taste the appetizer. That is another place people get trapped. They keep living on a sample, living on a prayer, living on a hope. One little bite, one magical experience, one magical weekend, one intimate season, one expensive car, one beautiful hotel room. One intimate season, one charged phase. And 5 months later, they are still trying to build a restaurant out of one toothpick and half a chicken wing. No, enough. If you are fed, you will know you're fed. If you are loved, you will know you are loved. If you are respected, you will not need a team of analysts, screenshots, and flashlight to work it out. That does not mean life is always simple. It means the baseline will not be confusion. And if confusion is the baseline, that is not a mystery to solve. That is a warning to receive. Disrespect is the warning. There it is. Disrespect is the warning, not the challenge, not the puzzle, not the invitation, not the thing that means you need to love harder, to give more. The warning, disrespect is the warning. And some of you have treated warnings like opportunity. You saw distance and called it mystery. You saw inconsistency and called it complexity. You saw selfishness and called it wounds. You saw mixed signals and called it chemistry. And now you're tired. You're confused. Of course you're tired. Of course you're confused. You were trying to get fruit from a tree that never respected your hunger. So let this be the thing you remember. Not every person you deeply want is a person you should stay necessarily close to. Not every person who makes you feel alive in your loins is a person who is safe in your life. Not every person who says they care is qualified to actually care for you. Not every person who is attracted to you values you. Not every person who is intimate with you honors you. And not every person who loses you will miss you rightly. That is the part of maturity too. Some people will miss you. They'll miss your usefulness, actually, not your soul. They don't care about your soul. Some people will miss your steadiness, not your depth. Some people will miss the way you made them feel, not the weight of who you actually are. Some people, listen, stop trying to force yourself into being remembered by people who only really noticed your function. Be remembered by God. Be respected by the people who have the character to recognize the weight of you, who can lift you and carry you. Be loved by the people who know how to bring both warmth and honor to the table. And if somebody does not know how to do that, let them lose access to you. Let them say, you changed. You should have changed. Let them say, you got distant. Good. Distance is what happens when access is misused. Let them say you are hard to read. Maybe that is because they were used to reading your softness while giving you no safety. You don't owe endless availability to people who have already shown they do not know how to handle you well. So I will close the same way I started. Stay where you are respected, not where you are merely desired, not where you are occasionally remembered, not where you are touched but not treasured, not where you are listened to but not considered, not where you are wanted at night and managed by day. Stay where you are respected. Run from disrespect. Run from the eye rolling. Run from the mixed signals. Run from the practical concern with no courage behind it. Run from the person who likes your love but does not respect your life. Run from the person who leaves you guessing because guessing keeps you close to them, or chasing them, or near to them. Run from the person who takes and then acts confused when you have pain. Run. And when you are truly loved, consider that a blessing, because it is. Because that kind of love will not need to reduce you in order to enjoy you. It will not need to confuse you in order to keep you around. It will not need to disrespect you in order to feel powerful. It will feel like something your soul can stand in without shrinking. That is a blessing. Love is a blessing. Respect is the requirement. Remember that. Remember, it is required. It is not an add-on. It is not a feature. It can't be supplemented. Disrespect is the warning, and confusion is not a relationship strategy. It is a pull the wool over your eyes strategy. It never was. It never will be. And if nobody told you before, let me tell you, you do not have to earn the right to be treated with respect. You bring that with you everywhere you go. Act like it. Keep your heart with all vigilance, for from it flows the springs of life. Make no friendship with a man or a woman given to anger, nor go with a wrathful person, lest you learn their ways and entangle yourself in a snare. Let your foot be seldom in your neighbor's house, lest they have their fill of you and hate you. For lack of wood, the fire goes out. Hope deferred makes the heart sick, but a desire fulfilled is a tree of life. Why these things fit? Well, this backs stay where you are respected and run from disrespect, because the heart is not something to leave sitting in careless hands. If a person keeps disturbing your peace, draining your inner life, or keeping you in confusion, this verse says the answer is not endless tolerance. The answer is guarding the source. Proverbs 4:23. Keep your heart with all vigilance, for from it flows the springs of life. Listen. Guard your heart, y'all. Don't stay tied to disrespectful, destructive characters. Do not overstay where honor is fading. Stop feeding what is consuming you, and do not let stretched out hope make your heart sick. Stay where you're respected, and run from that disrespect. And when you are truly loved, when you can tell, consider it a blessing and treat it as such. Till next time, y'all. This is MCM. This is You're Probably Right. Remember, this podcast, like every other podcast, is for entertainment purposes only. And if you get some type of benefit, that's your blessing. Remember, find yourself a Bible-believing church that believes in the 66 books of the Bible and goes forward in expository preaching, where the Bible explains itself. And we don't have to look to the worldliness to explain things of God, because it's all in the Bible already. Not for some pie in the sky, imaginary apparition from somebody's mind or a dream that they had, but straight from the Bible. Until next time, y'all, take care. It's MCM. This is You're Probably Right. Peace out. Hey, come check out You're Probably Right podcast. Society is getting more unpredictable every day, but at the same time, predictable in its unpredictability. Say that 4 times real fast. Come with me as I attempt to find clarity in all the fog while staying way outside the box and kicking the box way down the road with my size 12 ducks. I use the Bible, experience, education, fortune, misfortune, life's lessons, life's mistakes to sort through all the mess. I talk about news, God, God, self-help, sports, sickness, health, music, parenting, love, humbleness, hurt, pain, joy, and all the things that might make you say, I never thought of it that way. Hopefully, anyway. Also, I take a stab at answering tough and not so tough questions, and all the while, understand that, listen, sometimes you end up in the hot seat and there's no thermostat. Well, that's how it is here. And because there's no topic, very few topics off the table, Torontonians will understand that Doug Ford reference there. Hopefully the podcast will be helpful and uplifting. And hey, maybe you'll find your own private Idaho here somewhere. Hope to see you soon.